Hello everyone, my name is Zach. Welcome back to my channel. I want to thank everyone who watched my first video and commented and has subscribed. It was so nice to get such a warm welcome from the community. I'm a little speechless. It's so incredible. So thank you guys so much. Unfortunately, I have to start off today's video with a bit of bad news. My dad, who's been a fireman for a number of years, was sent to training today to review how to carry someone properly, and while he was there, he injured his back. Last I talked to them, it seems that he's broken a vertebrae. They're waiting to hear back from the neurosurgeon to find out kind of just how bad the injury is, but it's probably not going to be good news. Obviously, an injury of this nature is very bad, and he's going to need a lot of help, probably physically, but also emotionally, because he hates to be off work. He gets bored really easily, and also he sounded kind of scared when I talked to him on the phone. So this channel, unfortunately, is going to have to go to the back burner for the next few weeks. It sucks to happen so quickly after I started this channel. I was really excited to get into May after my finals had ended and start getting content out regularly, but life hands you some tough cards sometimes. That being said, I do have this video planned and my April wrap-up. After that, I don't know when I'll be back. Hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. Speaking of today's video, let's get into it. As I'm filming this, tomorrow is my 21st birthday, and I've seen a lot of people do online where they'll do blank things for blank years and kind of talk about things. And so I thought a fun thing to do would be to talk about 21 stories I've been thankful for over my 21 years of life. To be clear, this is not a list of my 21 favorite stories, nor is it a list of my favorite story for every year I've been alive. Rather, these are 21 stories that have affected me or taught me something or I'm just grateful for. So that being said, let's get into it. So the first story that I'm very thankful for is Star Wars: A New Hope. This was the first story that I really loved, and it launched a lifelong obsession with both the Star Wars franchise and with science fiction. So I'm very grateful to this, and I will always be a fan of this franchise, even when it hurts me, as it has for the past few years. Story number 2 I'm thankful for is the Spiderwick Chronicles, which is the story of 3 siblings that discover a world hidden alongside our own. This was the first book series that I ever loved. It was my introduction to audiobooks, and it was also my introduction to fantasy. 3 things that I ended up really loving later on in my life, so I'm thankful to these books for introducing me to all 3. The third story I'm thankful for is Demon Days by Goriilaz. Hey guys, Editing Zach here. I realized in the video I did a terrible job explaining what Demon Days is and why I love it, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to clarify. Demon Days is a concept album, and if you don't know, concept albums are albums that tell a story through all the tracks included, either by furthering the story or by further exploring the theme of the album through each track. This was my introduction to concept albums, and I really love the concept album. I think it's underutilized and underappreciated method of storytelling, and I highly suggest checking them out if you haven't already. I'll put some links in the description to what concept albums are and some great examples of them. Demon Days itself is an exploration of personal demons and kind of a journey through the night where each song is a different personal demon. So for instance, there's a song on PTSD, a song on alcoholism, even songs about the sins of man like colonialism. So it's kind of a fascinating listen and something that you have to kind of use your noggin and kind of think about while you're listening to it. So it's an incredible album. I highly recommend it. The fourth story I'm thankful for is Halo. Halo, of course, is the video game franchise that's been around for a number of years. This was the video game that made me realize that video games weren't just fun, but they could also be a great storytelling medium, and they were the first video game storyline that I ever really got into and really kind of obsessed with. And as you'll see later on, video game stories are some of my favorites, so I'm thankful for Halo for introducing me to the idea of video games as a storytelling medium. The fifth story I'm thankful for is Jurassic Park, which was my introduction to hard science fiction. It solidified my love of science fiction in general, and it also taught me the very important lesson, just because you can doesn't mean you should. The sixth story I'm grateful for is Piano Man by Billy Joel. This was the song that made me realize that music could be a great storytelling medium on its own. It was the first time that I ever listened to a song and realized that it was telling me a story, and it also introduced me to my favorite musician of all time, Billy Joel. The seventh story I'm grateful for is Resident Evil. Resident Evil started off as a video game franchise, but has now spawned off both books and movies. And this was important to me because it was an introduction to horror for the first time, and it was also my very first guilty pleasure, a guilty pleasure that now spans 3 mediums. I think guilty pleasures are awesome. I plan to make a whole video about them in the future, but this, to my recollection, was my very first, and so I'm thankful for that. It was also my introduction to the idea of so bad it's good, because the voice acting in this game is so awful, it's kind of funny. The 8th story I'm thankful for is The Shawshank Redemption. The Shawshank Redemption is my favorite movie of all time, and it taught me the very important lesson that life can seem dark, life can seem hard, but keep hope in your heart because it will set you free. The 9th story I'm thankful for is The Shining by Stephen King, which cemented my love of horror and also introduced me to the man they call Mr. King, who I have developed a love-hate relationship over the years, but who ultimately got me into reading physical books. And so this is very important in my history as a reader. The 10th story I'm thankful for is Silent Hill. Silent Hill is another survival horror video game which taught me that not only could I enjoy horror, but I could handle some pretty intense, pretty scary horror. Silent Hill also kindled a love of learning about religion by sprinkling in real-world occult and religious elements into its story alongside classic horror story elements. And so I'm very thankful to that for helping me want to learn about other cultures. The 11th story I'm thankful for is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which I read freshman year of high school. And this book taught me that classics weren't just some boring crap I had to read for English class. They could be both fun and enjoyable. And it also taught me that everyone, no matter how great they are, has a dark side. So now at the halfway point, and as of tomorrow, since I'll be 21, I can legally drink. And a fun fact about me is that I did not drink while I was underage, so I will be trying alcohol for the first time. So I'm going to have Editing Zach take you to the future and show you my first impressions. So, Zach to the future. Alright guys, so I got me a Glutenberg IPA. This is gluten-free because I have celiac disease, so I have to eat and now drink gluten-free. I checked Google, and this is supposed to be one of the better gluten-free beer brands, so hopefully it'll be okay, but I guess we just gotta find out now. Alright, here we go. Oh, God. Ugh. So I'm gonna steal a quote from an old gaming channel that I used to love, and that's, they say beer is an acquired taste, but I'm not so sure that I want to acquire it. Alright, it's a little later on in the night. I just had dinner, and now I'm going to try a hard cider. So this is Angry Orchard, so let's see how this is. Bottoms up. Now this I can get behind. Hopefully I made a funny face. Hopefully that was interesting. I don't know. Maybe I just thought it was meh. Who knows? The 12th story I'm thankful for is the movie Full Metal Jacket. When I was a preteen, I had a dream of military service, a dream that ended when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes shortly before my 11th birthday. Full Metal Jacket was my first real look into military life and into how war is, and it made me realize that the vision I had as a preteen was completely wrong and that I probably would have been horribly miserable if I had gone into the military as I had planned. In turn, this helped me realize that things that seem the worst in life, even the diagnosis of a life-changing illness, can be a blessing in disguise at certain times. The 13th story I'm grateful for is the Simon & Garfunkel song America, which is the story of 2 young lovers that go off in search of the meaning of America. This song and the story means a lot to me because it was my introduction to folk music, which I think is a great style of music if you love storytelling. It's kind of poetry set to music, and it made me appreciate both the genre of folk and poetry in general. I'm also really thankful for this album because it made me for the first time be a bit introspective and reflective about my country, the American dream, my place in it, and what I thought of it all, and it made me think, and so I'm glad this inspired that. The 14th story I'm grateful for is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is the story of a man who tries to erase the memories of his ex-girlfriend shortly after their breakup. I saw this movie shortly after my first and only romantic relationship ended, and it was perfect for helping me work through those intense emotions of that time, And it also made me realize that memories, even painful ones, are something to be treasured and kept, and that you shouldn't let bad memories overshadow the good memories that you have. The 15th story I'm grateful for is The Tragedy of Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. I'm thankful to the story for reminding me of the power of rhetoric, and that sometimes all you need is a great speech to end someone's life. Literally. The 16th story I'm grateful for is The Martian. I saw The Martian for the first time in an honors class my freshman year of college, and Mark Watney's story of being stuck on Mars and isolated kind of reminded me of feelings I was having feeling isolated and alone at college for the first year, and this story kind of helped me work through those emotions, and it gave me a great feel-good story about overcoming and getting through hard times, and that was something I really needed at the time, so I'm very thankful for this movie for that. The 17th story I'm grateful for is From a Buick Ate by Stephen King. From a Buick Ate is one of Stephen King's lowest rated and most hated novels of all time, but it was a story that I actually really enjoyed, and so it taught me a very important lesson, which is never let public opinion sway your own opinion. Decide for yourself. The 18th story I'm grateful for is Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein. Starship Troopers was the first time in my life that I read a story that I really liked that had elements that I disagreed with and that I thought were kind of problematic. Through reading this story, I kind of realized that there's no requirement to dislike something that has problematic elements, and that just because you like something doesn't mean you agree with everything said within that story. And I think that's an important lesson that everyone should learn. The 19th story I'm grateful for is The Green Mile by Stephen King. In the back half of The Green Mile, there is a part where they discuss death and how death is not always a horrible thing. It can be merciful and a good thing. I think this is a very important lesson that everyone should learn. My mom works in a hospital, and too often she sees people who are kept alive through machines and through pain and misery because everyone thinks death is this horrible end. I think everyone needs to learn that death is not something to be feared all the time. It can be a blessing, especially if someone's in horrible pain or towards the end of their life, and that you should let someone go if the time is right for them to go. The 20th story I'm grateful for is Diamonds and Rust by Joan Baez. Diamonds and Rust is a song that was inspired by Joan Baez's relationship with Bob Dylan, in which he tries to come back into her life and she cuts him down pretty harshly. I'm very thankful for this song for helping me to realize that toxic people may try to come back into your life, but you have no obligation to let them back in. And the final story that I'm grateful for, the story I'm most grateful for, is Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2, again, is a survival horror video game that was inspired by the story of Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Silent Hill 2 is a story that made me finally appreciate all those things that my English classes had been trying to get me to appreciate. Subtlety in storytelling, symbolism, theme, all these things that I thought were just some annoying crap my English teacher made up to torture me were actually great and meaningful things. For the first time in my life, I realized that storytelling was an art to be appreciated and that I specifically really loved that art. Silent Hill 2, quite simply, is my favorite story of all time, and it probably always will be. So there you have it, 21 stories I'm thankful for over 21 years. I'm sorry if this video was a little more down and depressing. I hope that my videos in the future will be a little more upbeat, but it is finals and it's my birthday and I was feeling a little bit reflective, and so I thought I would share these, and a lot of stories that affect you because they came to you in hard times. All that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like button if you like. Feel free to subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you next time.